Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock. To start the meeting, we'd like to ask Abbott Davis to come up and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. If y'all would stand with us. Ready?
Okay. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to give you this official City of Hernando film. Thank you for doing that for us. Okay, next, Alderman Miller, would you give our invocation for us?
Yes, sir. Would you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, Lord, we come, we are so thankful for this day. We thank you, Lord, for this great country that we live in. Heavenly Father, we ask you now as we go forward with the business of this city that you will give us wisdom that we make decisions, Heavenly Father, that you will be pleased in and satisfied. We thank you, Lord, for all the things that you're doing. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Alderman Miller, while you've got the mic, you said you might have a remark to make on the record.
Yeah, I have some few remarks I'd like to make for the record. Everybody remember that on February 3rd, we woke up with a lot of damage and stuff in our area, in our community. So we want to just acknowledge our fire, police, dispatch, and public works for coming in and doing an awesome job on February the 3rd, 2022. In addition, we also would like to acknowledge our mayor and the rest of the aldermen and all the person that also drove the streets and looking at damage and relating it to our public works department. So we want to just say well done, and I think the citizens are very pleased with everything that accomplished on that day. That's all I had, man.
We're going to make that part of the minutes, part of the record. Okay, can I have a motion to approve this amended agenda you have in front of you?
So made. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Need a motion to approve the docket of claims.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion passes. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the regular Mayor and Board of Aldermen meeting on February 1, 2022.
Motion to approve. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Miller, second by Alderman Robinson. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, I need a motion to approve the personnel docket.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is to approve the donations docket.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is item 10. Would you like to present that, Kendra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. This is an item or a request to waive the sidewalk requirement for the Jerry White subdivision plat. This is a plat that the board approved back in December. It's a two-lot subdivision at the northeast corner of Mount Pleasant Road and Riley Street. And after the approval of the plat and further discussion with the applicant, Mr. Jason Watson, the request was made to waive that sidewalk requirement. And part of our subdivision regulations, it does state that the board may waive the sidewalk requirement, provided that the street rights-of-way are left unobstructed and graded in such a manner that sidewalks may be constructed at a later date. If this request is approved by the board tonight, I do ask that the plat would reflect the date that the board did waive the sidewalks. Just as a matter of record on the plat, because the plat is still moving through the recording process, so I feel like that would be something good to add to the plat, in addition to the other requirements from the previous meeting that was required for the plat back in December. And we do have the applicant in the audience who may want to add more to the report, or also if the board has any questions for the applicant.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Cobbs before Mr. Watson comes up? If not, is Mr. Watson here? Yep. Would you like to come up and just talk about your request for a minute?
Sure. I appreciate it. Thank you. Like Ms. Cobb stated, the request is for the property on the corner of Riley and Mount Pleasant. We're looking to sell a portion of this land. It's currently about 1.7 acres. We're trying to sell 0.7 acres. There's no sidewalks anywhere located anywhere near that property. You have to come all the way back to Commerce to actually get to a sidewalk. So we feel like there's no sidewalks anywhere within that area. So being required to put up such a large bond for a potential sidewalk in the future, it essentially negates the whole idea of trying to sell that piece of land. So again, we're requesting a waive for this based on that.
Y'all have any questions for Mr. Watson? Is there any citizens that want to speak on this issue? If not, do we have a motion from the board?
Is there any long-term plan to put sidewalks down by Helia or biking trail? I know there's a biking trail on the other side there.
You know, we did produce a plan, Neil Schaefer did for us, and we applied for a grant, a raised grant that we did not receive, and that would be part of that. But it was a major plan that was going to make all those connections. But and as y'all know, I am a pro sidewalk guy, always have been. I'm not usually in favor of variances, and I'm not saying I'm in favor of this one. However, this one literally would probably take years and years to get a connection to that sidewalk, and it would probably look like an oddity for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sidewalks anywhere near any of that, so.
And if we do a major sidewalk plan and get a grant, do sidewalks through there, then we would just do this, and it would be a small added expense.
With that being said, I'll make a motion to waive the sidewalk requirement for Jerry White subdivision plat located at the northeast corner of Mount Pleasant Road and Riley Street in Section 7 Township 3 South, Range 7 West.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. It's granted.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Does that include the request that Ms. Cobb asked for?
Yes.
Yes, it'll be put as part of the plan.
Thank
You're
you.
not gonna make me say that again,
Huh?
You're not gonna make me say
I
that
just
again.
wanted you to say yes, man, that's all.
As y'all know, we did not appoint election commissioners yet, and we have to do that, city election commissioners, in the event that we hold a city election. Ashley Wadsworth, Alice Barnes, and Dale Bellflower have all agreed to serve. Ms. Wadsworth and Ms. Barnes have been election commissioners. I think Mr. Bellflower helped on the Republican committee maybe, but they're all experienced and they're all willing to do it, which is the main thing. So I would respectfully ask that y'all approve and appoint them as municipal election commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is the approval to advertise for bids for the AWG infrastructure improvements portion of the overlay and shoulder widening of Green Tea Road project. The project limits are generally from Highway 51 to the realigned section of Mackinville Road. Mike, could you come up and talk just a minute about it so everybody fully understands? And before he gets up, I'll just let y'all know this is part of the agreement that was made with AWG as an incentive to get them here, part of the $3.9 million loan that we're taking out. This is a portion of that work that we agreed to do as a city.
Correct. This is just an overlay and a actual paved shoulder widening of Green Tea, basically from our limits of the Mackinville Road project back west to Highway 51. It'll be two 12-foot lanes and two 4-foot paved shoulders, Joe Frank? I forget the details. It's 4-foot paved shoulders with 2-foot gravel, a total of 6-foot shoulders? Or is it 2-foot paved and 4-foot gravel?
2 and 4.
Okay, it'll have a paved, I'm sorry, I don't have the details with me, but it'll be a paved shoulder, a 2-foot paved shoulder with a total of 4-foot granular asphalt shoulder.
And when will
Fairly simple project.
When will we actually advertise it after this approval?
We are planning on advertising, I think it's next Wednesday, not tomorrow, but the next Wednesday after we meet. And then we'll have to advertise again and opening bids March 25th, I believe is what we're scheduled to do.
Okay, good. Any questions on that?
And so this is part of like the memorandum of understanding for
Correct.
them locating here.
Right.
Do we have an estimate? I know that
It was right at $1 million. I saw that this afternoon. 964,000, I believe.
Will we use funds out of the loan, or?
Yes, so it's a reimbursable, we spend it, we turn in the bill, and the Planning Development District gives it back to us, and then we start paying, the interest starts accruing, and then we start paying for it when all the 3 of the projects are done. One of the projects was the AWG sewer line, one of them is Capic Drive, the street that goes in, and the other one is Green Tea.
Correct.
And the 4th leg of that incentive plan was the fire protection tower, but that was a reimbursable grant, so
Correct.
we didn't end up paying any money for that. So, okay.
just as an aside, I feel like one thing that we have to look at for the people that live on Green Tea is there's some areas that are more buffered naturally, that are closer to the Green Tea subdivision, but there's a couple of coves right there that have no protection from 18-wheeler traffic from a noise standpoint. I know the mayor and I have discussed that before, looking at some potential options there, because it is, things like this are meant to help with the safety of 18-wheelers traveling on Green Tea Road more than anything else, so that if they, for some reason, because they're checking Facebook while they're driving an 18-wheeler or whatever it might be, and they go over the mayonnaise line, they can get back on real easy without any problems. But I think that's one thing we need to additionally, look at it at some time very soon, because that 18-wheeler traffic is going to be coming soon to Green Tea Road.
I know the developers are building a couple of houses out there, but
Yep.
they're already under construction and have already been approved, so I don't know that we could add anything to them on buffering with landscape, but maybe that's something we could look at as a city, is to put some thick landscape there behind those houses. I'm sure those houses the neighbors would appreciate it.
Just something in the right of way that wouldn't be, that wouldn't cause any kind of issues maintenance wise.
I'm sorry, just a side note, we're not doing any kind of clearing as part of this project. I mean, there's a
Correct.
grass shoulder
Right.
pretty much there, so we're basically improving it, so there won't be any additional clearing. But some of the areas don't have anything to clear anyway.
Yeah, and this came up when Entergy came through there and clear cut the area on the north side of Green Tea
forgot
for their
about that, yeah.
transmission lines. And I don't think we all realize how much the neighbors were depending on those trees for a noise buffer, but that
And
had
this-
to happen, I guess. So
This is not an overlay of Green Tea Road either. Or is it?
it is an overlay.
It will be
It's an overlay
too.
of the entire road as well, and
Yeah,
then
we'll
also
widen
a
the
2-foot.
shoulders, then overlay the whole section plus the shoulders.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Okay, item 13 is to approve the order amending the budget for fiscal year 2022. Alderman Miller very rightfully had said that we're getting far enough into the year that we need to be doing the amendments and get started on them. So some of the department heads put in their amendments, and you've had them in your packet. Are there any questions anyone has on them that weren't answered previously by the city clerk? And if not, is there a motion to accept the budget amendments?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Authorize me, the city clerk, the bookkeeper, Amy Claire Holder, and HR Director Julie Gates as signers on the new guarantee bank accounts.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 15, request to declare surplus one Glock 19, serial number BHSX 980, surplus item to be sold to retired Lieutenant Charles Bicknell for $1 pursuant to the Mississippi Code 45-9-131. which is the purchase of a sidearm by a retiring law enforcement officer.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And next is the same thing for the Glock with serial number BHG B518 to be sold to retired HPD Lieutenant Russell Lynch for $1 pursuant to the same Mississippi code.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 17 is approval for Jared Barkley to sign an agreement with Collins Lemonade to sell concessions at the Hernando Civic Center during the softball tournament dates. And this agreement was reviewed by the city attorney. Those are the same group that we're already using to do the refreshments at the soccer arena, so we just didn't have them set up to do baseball and softball.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is to approve Jared to sign an agreement with Holly Bigham to lead instructional tennis classes for Hernando Parks and Rec during the March through May of 2022, and that agreement was also reviewed by the city attorney.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, this item is the same one y'all approved at the last meeting, and after you approved it, they raised the price on us a little bit. So we're just bringing the exact same lighting agreement back to you for the Civic Center ball fields. It's a couple $100 more. We just legally had to bring it back to you because it's a different price than y'all agreed to.
How long these prices good for?
I hope they're good till tomorrow when we call and say go.
I'll be 30 days or something.
Can we have a motion on that item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 20, approval of the proposed policy by Jared Barkley, the Parks Director, to allow for independent travel baseball and softball teams to rent field space for a fee at the Hernando Civic Center fields. Does anyone have questions on that, or comments, or a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And item 21 is approval for Jared Barkley to sign the agreement with Mike Foley, Tournament Director for Fast Pitch America Softball Association, to host the Fafsa youth softball tournaments for the spring and summer of 2022 at the Hernando Civic Center fields. This agreement was also reviewed by the city attorney.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And item 22 is consideration of the lowest/best bid to perform grass maintenance for parks and athletic fields for 2022. This was a budgeted item. It went out for bids. 3 bids came back in. Y'all have seen those bids. Do we have comments or questions?
Looks like we got, 3 bids. One of them's pretty high. The other 2 are within $900 of each other. We've got one that's here locally. It looks like they've added a few more items as far as spray treatments and so forth. So based on that, I would make a motion to approve the B&B landscape pressure washing bid at $84,205.
Was those items added included in the document that went out?
I don't think they were. I don't think we asked those items to be bid on, if that's what you're asking. Jared, where's Jared? Did we ask for those items to be in the bid? I've got it here, but I don't want to read the whole bid right now.
No, sir. Spraying was not included in the bid options. There wasn't an addendum or anything like that.
So that was just something that company said they were going to do as an add-on service.
Well,
include in there to work.
So in the questions that went out, so we accepted questions and then we answered questions all at one time. I blind copied the applicants so everybody was on the same page. We will be doing our own spraying. Michael Gross is certified to do that. He's for spraying. And we have certain items that we need sprayed a certain way, so just to take kind of the guesswork out of it, we would be doing the spraying as far as Roundup treatments and stuff like that goes.
Does this include the maintenance of the flower beds and things, or is that?
It does not.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
This is strictly just cutting the grass.
Cutting grass, edging, weed eating, picking up limbs that may be in the way while doing that.
Not leaving anything behind, just not spraying anything, just.
Correct. We would be spraying everything. Mhm.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second to the motion? We'll continue discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a second to the motion. Is there anyone here, we didn't really do discuss, so we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone here that wants to speak for or against or on this topic? Okay. If not, can we have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Roll call.
There's been a call for a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call vote for us?
Alderman Wicker,
No.
Alderman Ross, Alderwoman Ross,
Yes.
Alderman Piper,
Aye.
Alderman Harris,
Aye.
Alderwoman Lynch,
Aye.
Alderman Miller,
Nay.
Alderman Robinson.
Aye.
And that motion passes. All righty, thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
And next is, Mr. Downs is here to discuss his community drainage issue, and I think Joe Frank's here to help us with that. Mr. Downs? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm a resident here in Hernando, Mississippi. We live at 1284 Ridge Cove Drive in Cross Creek subdivisions. And there's a drainage problem that I've been trying to get with the HOA, which is a community drain which drains off of all the streets, which drains into a lake, which is behind my house. And that has fallen in. I've got pictures on my phone, which is not turned on now, but I got pictures on my phone. And I've been communicating with the attorney for the HOA. And they're saying that since the city permitted all the construction and stuff, that it relies on to the city, which Mr. Franks and some other people came to my house and they're like, it doesn't rely on the city. That's how I took it. And so I'm here to see who's responsible. I've already hired an attorney, Mr. Holland, out of Horn, Mississippi. Spent $1,000 with him. I dismissed him because I want to get this done aggressively and done. It's going to be done one way or the other, you know, if we have to go with more motions or whatever, because I feel that myself, that if it's a community drain, that which is all the streets in the community drains through this thing, and so happens in my property that it goes to the lake, that it should be a community HOA project, not my project. So, and I do have a letter here that the attorney's stating that it is on the city, not on him, the HOA.
Okay.
And if you'd like to read that, if you'd
Could
like
you
to see
hand that to our
pictures.
city attorney?
Yes.
If it's a legal document, we're going to rely on him to look at that. So did the homeowners association say that it's their problem? They just aren't going to?
No, they're saying that it's not their problem because
Okay.
the city approved it with permits.
Okay.
And they're saying that erosion, which is not really erosion, what it is that if they would take a minute to come out and look and really look at it, there's a plastic pipe that they put down through there.
Disintegrated.
And those plastic pipes have been busted, and you could probably fit about a car in my backyard where it's just, sorry.
Well, I walked back there.
Yes, sir.
And I agree with you. It's a problem.
Yes, sir, it is.
And you could even see them from the aerial photos on the GIS map. So it's a big deal.
Yes, sir. And every time it rains, it's washing away more and more. It's probably, I've been there about, already at 2 years, and it's probably washed away probably 1.5 to 2 foot in the surrounding circles. And that's a lot of footage within a year, year and a half. Every time it rains heavy.
Gotcha. I'm going to ask our
Yes, sir.
city engineer a question. That drainage that's there, Joe, when he's saying the city permitted it or whatever, can you explain to us what that is and how some of the early drainage in there to a certain point is in a utility easement and some of it's not?
Okay. So, the original guy constructed the subdivision without a lot of underground drainage. One of the developers came back in there, if we're talking about this particular pipe, came back in there and decided these open ditches were not gonna work like he wanted them to work, so he undertook on his own to do a lot of piping in the subdivision to help his lots that he purchased. And this happens to be one of the pipes. Because on the original plans that was turned in to the city, there was open ditches for the most part.
Okay.
And of course, you remember, this is a gated subdivision with private streets. We do maintain the water and sewer and the drainage that's within the right-of-way of the street. So we were not given an easement as far as that, as far as drainage outside of the right-of-way of the streets.
Okay.
And I've looked at it, and it's a problem to not only fix the pipe, but to haul in dirt. Fortunately, the head wall is still standing there on the pipe, which is a pretty substantial head wall there at the lake.
But in your opinion, is it something the city would be responsible for?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Pittman, I know you looked at it just briefly, knowing it was coming on the agenda.
Right. I've just reviewed the basic history that was provided to me on his property, and it doesn't appear that the city is going to be responsible for that. I just got the letter from Graves and Palmertree law firm. I haven't had a chance to look at that. I'd be happy to look at it and call Mr. Palmertree and speak with him.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't think the city's responsible.
But, so you're saying that letter, they're saying the city is responsible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
And I've hired
your
an-
attorneys have said that, okay.
Yes, which I dismiss him now, but they told my attorney they're not doing anything. And that's Mr. Holland out of Horn Lake, Mississippi. They're not doing nothing. It's on the city or me to take up, since it's my property, or dispute it with the city.
Okay. And I think I'm trying to put it in a nutshell best I can, because I'm not an engineer either. I think what I was hearing Mr. Lauderdale say is those were designed to be open ditches where your pipes are.
I'm not for sure, sir. I wasn't there when it
Yeah,
was built.
and so I guess the next developer that came in to make the yards more attractive put pipes in there, which means that those pipes were really put in just to make each individual's yard that had the pipe in it a better yard. It wasn't for the benefit of everybody. So it would be hard for the taxpayers of Hernando, in my mind, to be on the hook for replacing pipes that are only for the benefit of a yard.
I understand that
Yeah.
fully, yes.
But we'll ask our attorney to look at the letter and advise us further.
I'm not asking the city to be responsible for it. I'm asking the city because I really believe, since it is private property, that it is on the HOA. There's 100 and something houses in this community, this Cross Creek subdivision, and they pay $175 every 3 months per house. That's a lot of money. They never do anything. You ride in the road there, there's fences hanging everywhere, there's this, I do feel that it is on the subdivision to where that if it's on me and I constantly have to spend money and I have to fill it in, or we're gonna let the streets drain up and overflood into people's houses and ruin property that way. So I'm not asking the city, get back to my question, I'm not, I'm not asking the city to resolve the problem. I'm asking the city to force the HOA, if they're reliable, to do their situation and get what they get paid for.
Joe Frank, aren't there a couple other areas out there, and Tim, you may know the answer to this as well.
Yes, sir, you were there today.
Aren't there a couple other areas where these drainage pipes have caused the same problem out there?
The area of the subdivision does have some fall-ins here and there. Like on the other side of my house, I have, if you didn't look at that, on the other side of my house, I have where it is washed away, and I'm going to fill that in with dirt myself. It's not a drainage. This is a pipe from the community drains at which streets drain from.
Right.
That goes through there, and it's a halfway done job at the end, which is all falling in. So on the other side, which has been washed away, it's going to probably take about 7 or 8 loads of dirt. I'm going to fix that this year, okay? I know that's my problem. That's a washaway. This is a community drain. If I feel, if they say, okay, well, in the city says, okay, it's your responsibility to do whatever you want to do, I'm going to fill it in with dirt. I'm not going to do anything. And then it's going to back up and it's going to flood people's houses. Does the city really want that?
Could I offer a suggestion? I think, because we'll be here all night listening, but to get it to a conclusion, I think our attorney have the letter now.
Let's talk to the HOA.
So what I would ask our attorney to do, along with our city engineer, to determine whose liability it is, and to forward the HOA along with Mr. Downs a copy of your findings. And after we do that, then it'll be left up to Mr. Downs if he want to take legal against the HOA. If that's what your findings end up to be, but I think that's what all the city could do right now is that Mr. Pittman review that along with the engineer and come up with who, based upon the legality of it and the plat, who is responsible, and then and give both parties a letter to that effect along with the city, and I think we move forward from there. But anything short of that tonight, I think that's about all we could do. Am I correct, Mr. Pittman?
Completely respect that, sir.
Is that a motion?
Just real quick, Mr. Downs, as I understand it, you hired Mr. Holland.
No, sir, that's HOA.
Oh, that's the HOA attorney.
Yes, sir.
You hired him.
I think his name is Jolly on there, not Mr. Is it Jolly Collins?
No, Mr. Jolly's with the Palmer Tree Farm. So you hired the Palmer Tree Farm.
No, that's HOA.
Okay, so I thought, you hired Mr. Holland.
Okay, yes, Mr. Holland, yes, I'm sorry.
And then you fired him at this point.
Yes, I want somebody.
Was that a motion, Alderman Miller?
I just wanted to do a discussion.
Well, no, I see it. I just wanted to make sure I understood the players on that, because I think the direction he was headed in is the direction that he needs to go in, is to hire an attorney to handle that for him. But I'd be happy to do what.
I think based up, since they did direct us a letter stating that it was our responsibility, I think we need to respond along with the engineer to both parties.
Thank you, sir.
Upon your findings. That's my motion.
And the thing about it is that I'm a individual. Okay, this HOA has an attorney that's that wrote the letter there that is on the payroll. It doesn't really cost him anything to go back and forth. And actually, the attorney that I hired before was telling me that, oh, well, you know, him and this and that. When I gave my retainer down, and they get sent letters back and forth. And finally, I'm like, hey, look, it's over with. I want somebody more aggressive than what we're doing here.
Well, we've got a motion.
Got a second?
And a second.
Yes,
All in
sir.
favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. So our attorney will get it researched and get a letter back out.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Hope
very
that
much,
helps
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, item 24 is a discussion of making Ice Plant Street a two-way street and installing a four-way stop at Ice Plant and East Center Street. Before we start that discussion, when it was brought to my attention, I think we need a little background on why it became a one-way. Alderman Miller was around when we did it.
Yeah, it came, I think, not throwing the police on the bus, I think law enforcement was involved with a wreck there.
That's right. So Haifa used to play all their football games there. And we were having a parking problem and a traffic problem on game days for sure, and we needed more parking spots. So we made that street a one-way and put about 20 parking spots down it to help in that.
Then also, like I said, we had accidents at Railroad and Center Street.
And now, we don't have Haifa playing there all the time. We don't have traffic. And it's been asked by some of the people in the neighborhood
could we clarify some of the people in the neighborhood?
All right, let's clarify.
Yeah, I'm asking for clarification.
I know Mr. Kimberlin, who's building the new houses, has talked about it.
So he's not a neighborhood, he's a developer.
He's a developer,
Not
right.
in the neighborhood. Because my point is this, have anybody went down Railroad Ice Plant?
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all see a big light post with transformers and everything in the middle of in the street?
In the street?
In the street.
Mm-hmm.
On the east side,
It's been there about
it's in the
for a long
street.
time.
Mm-hmm. So when we start gonna put two-lane traffic back off in there, and could we call it a spade? I mean, call it what it is. we trying to eliminate something with an end run. Everybody looking like they don't know what I'm talking about. We trying to eliminate an automotive shop from parking on the parking places. So if we eliminate that by turning this into a 2-lane traffic, that's the end run game. So I think people need to be specific about why they want to do something.
It's very crowded on over there.
And that's my point. So, and it's a safety issue, and when we gonna put 2 lanes on there, when somebody knock that transformer and that pole down that's sitting on the asphalt,
It is on the asphalt.
on ice plant.
Is that on the south side of Center Street or the north side?
What the
South side.
No,
The transformer,
the transformer's on the east side.
Yeah, but south of Center.
south of Center Street.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the part that could benefit from being two-way is the part from Center Street to Commerce Street. Not necessarily the section from Center Street to,
South Street.
yes.
2 comments. If you've not driven it, you should, because it, and I think, Beth, you just said this, it's an extremely narrow street.
Yeah.
And then the Record Service uses that street to park vehicles that he's working on.
Right.
It's an eyesore.
And I don't
over there,
know what he'll
believe.
do to park vehicles if we were to change this. That's his problem, not the city's, I guess, but still, just being considerate to that business owner, it'll present a problem for him.
Well, originally,
But the
wasn't
bigger
it,
danger is, it's such a narrow street, when you start trying to get 2-way traffic on that street, it's an issue to me.
well, there's no expansion because there's a building right on top of the street right there.
Yeah, the only way to expand it would be on the west side,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot there to expand.
Well, if we think that the parking and not the 2-way is the main issue, and I'm not certain that it's.
Man,
that's
you know,
true.
I think we ought to just be real, man.
So,
I mean, we're not
Is
gonna
it-
let,
the
we're not
chief
gonna
is-
let businesses park their car on Commerce Street.
do we have an ordinance against
Ms. Ross,
parking,
let me-
businesses
Mayor,
using the streets
hold
for
on, let me-
parking lots?
Let me make this one statement so
Okay.
we can clear the record up.
All right.
It's not supposed to be letting them park, and I got the police chief. You cannot stop somebody parking in an authorized zone, number one, long as they have current tags and they're not on flats. And that's anywhere in the city. Am I correct, Chief? Even if it's in front of a automobile repair shop, they must have current tags and not on flat. If they don't have current tags and on flat, they can be cited and make a move. So have no deal whether we like something or dislike it, follow the law. That's my comment for that.
Any other comments?
Mayor, is that a no truck route street?
I don't remember.
I don't think I've seen a no truck.
It really needs to be it needs to be.
I think it's one coming out, it's a sign.
Oh, there is
coming-
one. Yeah,
it's-
it
it's a
is.
sign
Come off
coming
Commerce,
off
there
of
is one.
Commerce
Yep.
Street or Alderman Piper.
Yeah,
Oh, it is? Come
it
on.
is, yeah, there is,
When you
actually, we
coming
put a
off
new
Commerce
sign up
Street,
not long
Where
down
ago.
there.
that, where that blank, that open lot is?
No,
Yeah, at George Reedy's
right there next
office.
to the
Right
antique
there,
shop.
yeah,
is
okay,
good.
okay.
It's a sign there.
Yeah.
I think that would need to be, if we're going to open this up for 2-way traffic, that would need to be emphasized in some kind of way.
And
I don't
if we're
know how
gonna
else
leave
to
it
do
one
that
way,
other
we
than-
need to restripe it because people are missing it and going down it the wrong way. We actually had a major wreck down there a few months ago because somebody was going the wrong way, and when they were going the wrong way, they didn't see, there was no stop sign for them, so they just ran out in the center and got T-boned.
Well, it's gonna have to be restriped because right now, they have parking little places all along the right-hand side if you're going toward the walking track for that business to park cars.
Well, they
correct?
weren't put there for that business. They were put there for citizens to park there while they were going to the football games.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
I
those-
missed
those-
that.
Yeah, it wasn't for a
public parking
business to park their cars
Right,
there.
yeah.
Okay. I was
It's public
like, what
parking
was that?
places.
Yeah, I think the expectation when people have, and maybe not the law, but the expectation is if you own an auto body shop, you need to have enough parking for your customers off the street.
Well, I thought there was a fence and they had to be, everything had to be housed behind that fence anyway.
That's
At
if
one
they're-
time.
If they're broken down, they have to be housed behind the fence.
Uh,
But if they're, like, if they're wrecked, they have to be covered, but if they're not, they can, if they're, you know.
There's
they
a
can-
tiny little area over there.
Actually, that fence was put up when the prior owner had a conditional use and was towing in there, and the conditional use is no longer there. So really, there should be no wrecked or junk cars there. It's a repair shop for cars that are getting repaired short term. But I feel like it's, the intent, I think, was to make it safer for one thing, and maybe two ways the way to do it, maybe two ways not the way to do it. But having cars that are parked there all the time for literally months at a time,
Years at a time.
yeah, is not what we need. We need to find a way to fix that.
Well, you know, Mayor, let me offer this. If we concerned about length, this board can put a time limit. You can have 4 hours parking. You can have 8-hour parking. You know, same thing we have on the square. So it's a way legally to do that. We can make that area time sensitive. Am I right, Ms. Pittman? And so that way, what we are saying, I hear the voices, I hear the silent voice, you really ain't saying what you think. But I'm just speaking, Miller just speak out. So, y'all don't like them being parked there because they for the shop, okay. Take that out, you got to eliminate that. But what can you do legally? Legally, we do the same thing when the business complain on the square about people's parking, we put in what? Time limit. I wonder what you're gonna do when these folks get in these townhouses down here. They done made that nice parking, they gonna think this their parking. They're gonna be calling the chief, says, somebody parking our parking place.
That's why it
What you
needs to be
gonna do
2
about
lane.
Huh?
That's why it needs to be a 2 lane.
That's a 1 lane down there. I'm talking about down here on Memphis Street now. Yeah. You know them?
There won't be no parking if it's 2 lane. Ice plant.
I'm through now. I made my point.
Any other discussion?
Well,
Go ahead.
I'd like to hear from the chief of police what he thinks about the safety of making that a two-way street.
Yes, ma'am, we went a couple days and looked at it. I talked to the mayor about it. I met with Alderman Robinson over there. It is tight. As you know, the first leg of it, which would be the north leg, they are using that occasionally, especially with the drink shop there now. They just shoot right up there. So, it is tight. And of course, one thing that's not mentioned is we do have that vacant lot that's adjacent. So if that ever develops, how's that gonna, I don't know what that looks like, how does that affect that development as far as the parking and all that? We'll do whatever you guys want us to do there. As far as I know, Mr. Adams he does not tow, or the new shop does not record tow out of that anymore. Mr. Adams is over on 51 now. So it is just a maintenance shop. We had spoke to Mr. Adams last year, and he told us, as the mayor said, he vacated that the parcel behind it with the fence where they were to store. And the last conversation that I had with Mr. Adams, which has nothing to do with us, but he was just volunteering information that he was actually supposed to take that fence down off of that property since he no longer keeps cars back there. If that happens, if there are cars from the shop that is just using it because historically they used it, then obviously that is going to be a huge eyesore as well. And as you know, when you get on top of the hill going south, it opens up significantly where the new condos or whatever that is, so, I get that aspect of the new residential, I understand that, but it is a top street, and I did not have a chance to speak with Mr. Joe Frank as far as the regulations. Obviously, at one point, it was a two-way street, so I'm assuming at whatever time it did meet the criteria for a two-lane street. We don't have, other than, I believe it was a couple of wrecks at the actual intersection of Commerce, within the last couple of years. We haven't had anything, on down by the, where the cars are parked now, where they're using that for parking.
Any other discussion? Any discussion from citizens? Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to make Ice Plant Street a two-way street, installing a four-way stop at Ice Plant and East Center Street.
Second?
Is that a second by Alderman Piper?
Yes.
It's a motion and a second. We'll have a roll call vote.
Question,
Yes, sir.
and this is a attorney question now. When you advertise for a discussion, can you make a motion making it, changing it? When you advertise for a discussion, pretty
Yes,
simple
sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
You can, so even though you misleading on what you're saying, you can make a motion to make changes. And it wasn't done on the front end either.
It looks like it's advertised to make it a two-way street.
No. He said discussion.
Yeah, you can vote on it at any time.
So the word discussion don't mean nothing then.
On the previous.
I'm just asking, I'm just
If
asking.
I could answer the question, my understanding is the previous boards have operated on the premise that if it's on discussion, you don't take a vote, but that's not legally required, you can vote on it.
No problem.
That's my answer to that. But
No problem.
my other question is this for the board is, if there's no parking restrictions there, even if you make it a two-way street, what if they keep parking there? Is that illegal?
Yes, sir, it would be in that case, because then they're blocking the lane of traffic.
Okay.
And then you can't egress.
Okay, so if they're blocking the lane of traffic one way or the other, they can get a ticket.
Yes, sir, because they would literally be taking the entire lane of traffic.
That's what I was thinking.
It's a motion and a second. We'll have a roll call vote.
Alderman Piper,
Aye.
Alderman Harris,
Nay.
Alderwoman Lynch,
Nay.
Alderman Miller,
Nay.
Alderman Robinson,
Aye.
Alderman Wicker,
Nay.
Alderwoman Ross.
Nay.
And the motion failed. Is there any other discussion or motions on this item?
Mayor, I'd like to, ask the chief, to look at, putting a time limit of parking over there and come back to the board with a recommendation
Okay.
on street parking.
Can you do that for us, chief?
Yes, sir, you just asking for that specific, or are you asking citywide?
No, for that particular street, for Ice Plant.
We can do that. I don't think that needs a motion. We can just do that.
Okay.
All right, if there's no other discussion on that, we will move on to item 25. Alderwoman Lynch and I have had some discussions here and there, and she thought this was a good night to just have an initial discussion about planning for long-term building projects. And as some of y'all know, I've been talking with governmental consultants, the company named Governmental Consultants, and a guy named Nick Shore. They're the people who advise us on purchasing bonds and our debt and things of that nature. And he's helped one or two other cities do a long-term, or like a long-term planning deal on what the city wants and how we could finance it, if we could afford it, if we couldn't. He's kind of the expert on it. And he would like to come see us at some time later. There's no charge for that. And kind of, we get together what we think we want over what period of time. He looks at our finances, he looks at our bonding capability, our taxes, et cetera, and advises us, well, you could probably do some of this, but not all of it, or you could do all of it. But the first piece of that would be us figuring out what this board thinks the city needs in the next 8 years, 4 to 8 years. So, Alderwoman Lynch, do you have some suggestions or a way to start the discussion?
Well, I just think if we could get a few of the aldermen together and we could speak with the department heads and see what their needs are and what they think. I mean, we know we're a growing city. We know we're going to be expanding. Most of our buildings, we're as tight as we can get, and we need to just not throw Band-Aids on. We need to look at what we're going to need in the future, and you know, what might cost us a little bit more will save us in the long run. So I just think we need a sort of vision for that.
Just question for clarity about, I think me and Alderman Wickers in agreement with this, because we spoke a month or two ago, we like to see a 5-year plan on infrastructure, drainage and sewer, because they deteriorating right now as we speak. You can go down some streets now, you see the streets are sinking in the middle. When they sinking in the middle, that's an indication that you got a problem beneath the surface. And it's only happening, most of it happening in the older part of the city. And I don't think the older part of the city need to be neglected. So we talking about building projects. I know this is infrastructure, so I don't know what y'all include that in building or what, but in the long-term plan, that need to be included, especially in the older part of the city.
I would recommend creating a maybe facilities committee or infrastructure committee, whatever you want to call it. I think that's what Alderman Lynch is saying, and meeting with everyone and develop like you said, a 10-year plan. That's my experience. That's what we've done, and it's worked well. You know, as you need a building, as you get a building paid off, you build a new building. So.
And we could create that committee and hold open committee meetings that the public could attend if they so wish.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I would say one thing, though. If we're going to ask, we have another item coming up where we're going to ask for additional tax revenue through things for the parks. It's going to be hard to say you don't have any money for your parks and you borrow the money to build buildings. I don't think that'd be a good way to go about doing that. So.
Yeah, I think we're just looking at a long-term plan for what people think we need in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good point, Alderman Wicker. Who would like to be on the committee?
I wouldn't mind being on that committee.
I'd be happy to help.
I'll volunteer to serve.
Okay, that's 3. We can have 3 on a committee. We can set dates that we will let the public know about if they want to attend the committee meetings. Okay. Any other discussion on this item for tonight? I think it's a good idea to set that committee meeting, and maybe at one of the committee meetings, I'll ask the guy from Governmental Consultants to come and talk to us, and I think he has some sort of a checklist to fill in the blank thing that could be helpful as part of our discussions.
Great.
We need to get our biggest need, what's the most crucial, and
That's
put it
right.
on the list.
Definitely have that feedback from our department head before we ever meet.
Did the department heads hear that? Kind of start getting a list together of 5-year plan of what you need in your departments that are big capital items. Don't go crazy with a wish list. It's what we need.
I've seen the fire.
Yeah, we do have fire put
We've
together a
seen
5-year plan.
fire.
We've got theirs.
Yeah.
Okay. Does someone, since we're going to form a formal committee, would someone like to make a motion to do that?
I'll move to create a formal committee for long-term planning with myself, Alderman Miller, and Alderman Wicker.
We want to call that the infrastructure committee? Sure. That work for y'all? Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion passes, and we will get to work. Okay, next is, as y'all know, we have gotten our census numbers in a few months ago, and after the census, we're required to take a formal look at our districts and see if we are in accordance with the One Man, One Vote Act. Golden Triangle Planning and Development District does this for a living. They have a guy that's really good at it. They're willing to do this for $10,000 and up to no more than $1,200 for travel expenses back and forth. There's an agreement in your packet that our attorneys looked at. Anybody have any questions on that? And we may or may not need to redistrict. You know, he'll look at it, and if we need to, he'll advise us, the board will vote, and he'll give us 3 different sets of plans, up to 3 sets of plans for that same amount.
Did he give you a timeline about how long this would take?
He said it would take about 3 to 4 months.
120 days or so?
Want to make a motion on that?
Motion to approve. Second.
Some motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. And next, as part of that, he said we need to approve the resolution stating the guidelines and criteria that govern the proposed boundary changes for wards in the city of Hernando. Have a motion to adopt that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Okay, item 28, we have been asked by Senator McClendon to draft a letter to clarify the city's position on pennies for parks legislation. This board did approve a resolution that we sent down, I actually hand-delivered to Representative Darnell, and I think Senator McClendon wanted something a little more detailed possibly, and I think he sent something to you, hasn't he, Alderman Wicker?
Well, we've talked several times today, and I think the biggest issue is the resolution we passed at the last meeting was, and it was delivered, the bill that Representative Darnell dropped is a little different. And, you know, I was not around in 2014 or whatever happened, and Mike McClendon seemed to think that one of the reasons that thing failed was because it was kind of vague on what the money could be used for and the timeline and so forth. And so I think it would be our best, because I really want this thing to be accomplished. I think we ought to, as a board, agree on exactly kind of what the money's going to be spent for and the length of the tax and so forth. I mean, it's kind of, I guess, the 2 big issues
Okay.
that I've been discussing with him back and forth, and just kind of clarify what our position is. I think we did that at the last meeting. It just was not put into the bill, and I talked to a couple of you guys about it, you know, because we assumed it wasn't going to be in there. I think the bill here that was dropped,
The House bill.
the House Bill 1551, talks about promoting tourism.
And on the tourism language, I'd asked the attorney at the House not to use the word tourism. And when I talked to Representative Darnell, he said that the committee chairman had asked him to put the word tourism back in there because it's customary. And I said, please take it back out because our citizens don't want this money spent on tourism. They want to spend only on parks. So Representative Darnell was going to go back to the chairman and ask for the word tourism to be removed.
Well, additionally, we may just need to clarify that the city has a tourism tax on hotels currently.
That's right. So we don't need tourism.
We already have a taxed fund for tourism-related expenses. So that would be while it may not be customary, this is the exception rather than the rule. And that may be just with Representative Barton, that may just be something that needs to be clarified as the committee chair.
Representative Darnell said he was going to talk to him and clarify it, and I will be in a meeting with the chairman of the House Local and Private on Thursday night, so I can make certain he understands our position on that.
Yeah, we just need it as clean as possible and very spelled out. Very transparent.
And I think we talked about, we actually hired Kimley Horn to go out and work with the citizens and draft a plan and work with us so that before a vote is taken by the citizens, we would know exactly what the citizens were voting for. But I think what Alderman McClendon's wanting us to do is spell out some of that now.
I think you're correct. I think he wants the bill, you know, to be as specific as possible. And I mean, I'm familiar with this process, but this is kind of like making sausage, so it's
Yeah.
going to change a couple times. There may be some amendments, there may be different things they do. I think we have until March 11th to, I think is our kind of our hard deadline on getting something passed, so we have about a month, a little less than a month.
So could we all agree, and I'm asking a question now, could we all agree that we would say this money would be spent on parks, capital improvements, at Kirkendall Park, at Renaissance Park, and at the soccer facility? So we talked about maybe some lighting at soccer, redoing the football field at Kirkendall, and then all these other parks things, baseball and tennis and so forth at Renaissance. And that would, we would know where they were going to be done and figure out exactly through our other process with Kimley Horn.
So you leaving out Added Park and all those, right?
Yeah, I don't like,
I know where I could go with
Okay.
that.
I don't like taking
That's
out
good.
specific
I
parks.
think we should leave all parks in.
Yeah, all parks should be in there.
Okay.
I mean, how more specific than
All
capital
citizens gonna pay?
improvements
Yeah.
does he?
I think that part's, I think that just a concern, he mentioned something about the animal shelter being paid for with some of these funds, which we know is not going to happen.
Oh, man, come on.
Salaries and different things, which is not going to happen.
No.
So,
I think if you just take out the word tourism, it's fine.
I know, but when you look at Renaissance Park, the animal shelter will be built out there, so you need to specifically say that it will not go toward the needs of the animal shelter.
It's not in Renaissance Park. The animal shelter is not in Renaissance Park.
It's in land owned by the city that used to be the sewer lagoon.
It's not Renaissance Park.
Currently, it's not, but I think in this plan we're going to develop, I think we're going to basically connect those two places.
Oh, yeah,
Mr. Miller.
it would be.
Yeah, but we're not, ain't none of these funds are gonna be going toward the animal shelter.
Put it in the bill then.
Be glad to. That'd go
Oh,
to the animal
I
shelter.
don't make me no difference, I'm just saying, but it's not
And
gonna be.
Mr. Miller, I mean, I
No,
agree.
I'm saying I agree.
No, you like to try to dictate these meetings all the
No.
time. I agree with you most of the time, but
Yeah.
you're being very disrespectful tonight. I don't appreciate it. I really don't.
Okay, well, I agree with you.
You got your
If you
opinion,
want-
I have my opinion. I don't appreciate you being so disrespectful.
I said as long as they're not included, I don't have no
Okay,
problem with
but I
that.
mean, the item earlier, there's no sense in talking like that. Nobody talks to you like that.
I just
there
think we
again.
need to spell it out specifically that all the parks for improvements and
Okay.
capital improvements, but put in there specifically that there is, that it does not include the animal shelter. That would be it. It does not include the animal shelter. Since it's going to possibly, in the future, be tied to that area.
Or capital improvements.
I don't know how to exactly word that.
Well, if we just keep it to the things that are run, by the Parks and Rec Department, the animal shelter is not a part of the Parks and Rec Department.
Yep.
So.
It's not. It does not fall under that category. I think people are just fearful that, things are going to get slipped in.
So
I
I'm
want
going
it
to
to be
look
very
into the
clear.
camera on YouTube right now and say that if we put this out for a vote to the citizens, it is not for the animal shelter at all. We have about $275,000 set aside. We have budgeted to borrow the rest of the money in a separate thing that has nothing to do with Pennies for Parks. This board has come up with a good plan to fund building the animal shelter, and it has nothing to do with Pennies for Parks.
Thank you.
We need to make sure that gets in the minutes. So, Alderman Wicker, I know you've talked to Senator McClendon more than I have recently. So if you said something about the timing of the vote.
Also, I think we discussed maybe having a referendum every 4 years instead of just one time.
At the municipal election date?
Yes, at the general election date or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a concern I've heard from citizens, that, there's a tax that's never going to go away.
Right.
I think that's something we ought to include. In the
If we
language.
do that, by the time we get this done, it would only be 3 years till an election. Should we start it at
We
the
would make it do the 29 election.
the
or
29
whatever.
election and then every 4 years after that? Do you think that should be part of the resolution?
I think it could be, yeah.
Yes.
So we would vote on it
I know some of the resolutions have.
Okay.
I think South Havens has, if 1,500 people sign a petition saying that you want a referendum, you hold a referendum. We can maybe put that, I think that's some general language I've seen in some of them I've looked at.
If you drive off 51 highway and just keep driving back through there, you'll eventually get
So
on
vote every 4 years, starting in 29,
homes on it, which is kind of.
after the original vote.
Piece of property. It's just a.
And that would give us 7 or 8 years, 6 or 7 years to fund the project. Only in parks. So what I've got in there, we need to get language, is it's only in existing city parks. Is that good? Is the word existing good?
Yeah.
So we're not going to.
We certainly want it spread out throughout the city.
Yeah, only existing city parks, specifically, well, I don't think we need to mention animal shelter, do we, at this point?
Can you,
Okay.
is there, I think Mr. Alderman Piper, me and him had a discussion, is there any salaries or something can pay with that money?
There are not.
Okay.
It'll only be used for capital improvements.
No vehicles?
No
Say
vehicles.
existing in future, just in case there's a park built somewhere else, so it doesn't get,
I'll say only in city parks.
okay, city parks. That's a good,
And we would vote every 4 years after the initial vote, starting in 2029, on, and we'll say at the municipal elections.
I have a question, please.
Yes, sir.
What was driving this initially was to upgrade our ball fields as part of this to a
Yes.
more professional, updated facility. If that facility is not located on our current park's property, is that a problem? Do you need to cover that in your verbiage?
In case we spend some of it out in the Civic Center fields?
Yeah, I mean, if we build a new complex,
Okay.
it may or may not be on one of our current parks. It might be an off-site facility on land that we may or may not own right now. Do we need to cover that in the referendum? Or can you just simply reference updated sports facilities and not worry about location?
Well, I think where it says it's only in city parks would cover that.
but that may not be a park. Well, it'd be considered, it would be
It
considered.
may not be,
Our future
if
parks.
this happens, we may not build it in one of our existing parks. It may be in a new park that doesn't exist today.
Someone might donate some land, or, you know. I'll find a way.
I just, you know, we don't have a lot of time we don't have any wiggle room at all. And if we get into a situation where we think we know what Senator McClendon wants and we draft this and we give it to him, and he says, well, no, I need something else in there. I just hope we've got a good detailed list from Mike on what he's looking for, because we don't have a lot of time.
We don't.
If it's gonna happen this year.
And to make it simpler, it might be something that he might ought to write and let us review it and go from there.
Could do that.
Find out.
Yeah, I mean,
You can call a special meeting and ask it.
yeah, let him write it and look at it.
Or we could draft it, yeah, we can draft it and tell Mike, Senator McClendon, this is what we've got. Do you need anything else? Because we don't want to get into that rewrite.
So we can go ahead and draft this into the other resolution we did and add this to it very quickly tomorrow. Because I carved out some time tomorrow knowing I would have to get that done before I go to Jackson Thursday. And then I'll send it to everybody. I think he actually said he wanted us all to sign it. Did I see that?
Yeah.
Like, in-person signature?
So I can, if we do that, I'll run it around to you. Y'all can come by City Hall.
We'll sign it.
What Doc said, would parks like recreation take care of everything?
Just say Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
Parks and Recreation Facilities.
Would that take, that be encompass everything?
Existing or new. Maybe if you put it in there that way, that covers it.
Okay.
Existing or new.
Existing or new, okay. Got it. So do y'all want to approve me drafting a letter with these clarifying statements in it?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Joe Frank, you want to come up and talk about the will serve letter for the Mississippi National Guard for you or Stephen, whichever. Y'all know the county is going to be building this National Guard facility on the north side of Star Landing, outside of our city limits. But we are the closest sewer, and I'll let Joe take over from there.
Okay. Well, I met with them a couple of times. And basically, you know, we have a lift station there at the corner of Gwynn Road and Star Landing. So to do what they want to do, they've got to move that lift station. And it's probably going to be moved further west. And then they, you know, they want to be able to serve the armory on Gravity, serve the center that the county wants to build on Gravity, and then, I guess, back in November, they talked about interested in taking out a lagoon that the mobile home park has in all this. Of course, that sits in South Haven on that side of the Star Landing. But they're willing to pay the cost to do that.
There would be no expense to the city. We would just take them on as a paying customer until South Haven decided to take them back.
That's the way I understand it.
That's the way I understood it as well. And I did talk to Mayor Musselwhite to make sure he was in agreement, because we are going to be taking sewer customers from them, and he's fine with it. Of course, they don't want to run any lines right now. They're not prepared to. So the city of South Haven's okay with this agreement. So we'll basically be helping the county out. Whoever uses that sewer that is being built at no cost to the city will be paying us sewer fees.
So there's no negative to it for us?
I don't see a negative. Do you, Joe?
Not really.
The maintenance, but we're maintaining everything,
Yeah,
right?
we're already maintaining that lift station.
Okay.
It's ours, so we're just going to add a few more customers.
Well, that,
You mentioned the city, the South Haven take them back.
Yeah, at some point, when they run sewer lines, then they would redirect that sewer back to wherever they're going to go, but they're not in any position to want to do that anytime soon.
Well, there's a piece of vacant land, I think, between the mobile home park and that first big building up there. And all that drains toward this lift station they're talking about moving. Needs to be in a position to serve that area. I guess one time we thought about the lift station eventually be moved down there by the railroad track if the city annexed on the west side of the railroad track, but I don't know if that's so far off, probably.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to annex out there.
Yeah.
And Stephen, I know you had looked at the agreement, and Tony Nowak, on behalf of the county, had drafted it, so are you okay with it from that perspective?
Yeah, I think everything looks good. He just wants the will serve letter to be able to present that to the board.
Okay. Everybody good with that? I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Can I get an approval on the utility adjustment docket?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Need a motion to go into closed session to discuss executive session for EMS personnel and police personnel.
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are now in closed session.